Why do you do photography, or how did photography find you?
Okay, this is where it gets hard. Thank you.
This is Tracey Lund. Tracey is somebody who I have admired for a long time, and just coincidentally we live actually really close to each other. And Tracey has also judged for us for the TOG Awards, which is open now, so you can go ahead and enter if you want to. And Tracey's actually a really, really well-established, multi-award winning, international kind of premier person of wildlife photography. But I know, because I know you, that you've actually got quite an interesting kind of backstory. And so I'm going to want to dig into that a little bit as well.
Okay.
So, how would you describe yourself in terms of what you do?
I mean, we'll get into the backstory of it, but literally just recently turned professional wildlife photographer. Big jump from my daytime job, but literally just travel near and far, photographing wildlife, trying to show that passion and maybe thanks that I've had. And yeah, just try and get the connection with the wildlife is the most important thing for me, and try and show their personalities and characteristics. But yeah, just mainly it's all about the passion that I've got for wildlife that I try and show with my images.
I'm like thinking of all of the different images whilst you're saying that. So I'm like going through like all of my favourite show reel. I will include, if with your permission, if that's okay,
absolutely,
some of your photography in here, because there's one specific image, and what I said this would not be about, this interview would not be about the story behind particular images. I'm going to really try and keep to my own promise of what I said. But there is one image in particular that I would like you to go through. Now, I am useless with species of birds and stuff. But it is a bird, and it's a white bird, okay,
and pelican,
and there's a lot of action happening in the moment, and it's quite almost like up close.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, which has done me well, it's one image that literally started things off for me to get more notice, and was a big. It got me to where I am today, to be honest.
Okay.
And basically it's Dalmatian pelicans, Lake Kokini in Greece. Literally I was on the side of the lake, and a platform was put into the water for me to lay onto. And I was given just one opportunity to get this image, to have a go. I was given this single fish, laid on this platform, wide angle lens, fish was placed at the end of that platform, and literally laid in wait to see if the birds became, interested. And I've got an image of it happening, and the birds didn't care. I was there, and then the moment happened where literally I got the whole sequence where this one pelican at the front came in, grabbed the fish, and took it back, swallowed it, and I got the whole sequence. And I got the image that I wanted. But yeah, that one, it got highly commended in a bird photography competition, was printed in the Mail in London, and the BBC picked it up. I woke up from a night shift at that point to multiple missed calls. Eventually took the call from the BBC, and within 2 hours they shut down a city centre cafe because I didn't have a studio, and this, that and the other. So I attended this interview, which they interviewed me for local radio, local news. But then they couldn't understand why, at that point, I didn't have a website. All my images were in boxes or on hard drives, and they couldn't understand why. And bless her, Amanda White of the BBC literally took me under her wing.
I'm so glad I asked about it. I could have picked any of them. I picked that one.
Yeah, it's a big one. It is, and it's won me quite a few awards. And yeah, it just shows the whole characteristics of the bird that I wanted. But it's the fact it was in my head.
Yes.
And to see it in print is, I need to get more out of there into print, but it doesn't always work that way with wildlife.
And I won't ask you about the background of any of the other pictures, but I know that you've been to some epically terrifying locations, for me personally. So for example, like Svalbard.
Yes. Yeah, that was
That's recent.
the hardest exhibition I have done. Polar bears was a very big dream of mine to see in the wild, obviously, before it comes to the point maybe they don't exist. But I wanted to be on foot. It's all about being at their level, being at the eye level contact for me. So this particular trip was a case of you have your own ski mobile, and literally you're going out, and was literally 12, 14-hour days on these ski mobiles ourselves, out in the open, and then wild camping in -50 to make sure it was in the better locations, having to be on bear watch constantly because, you know, they weren't going to avoid you and you had to warn everybody else. It took 5 days of travelling to get our first bear sighting. And yeah, I was sat on the ground watching a bear running towards us. At that point was the time my lens failed to work. So a lot of the images didn't come out, which, yeah. So to see your first polar bear, it was like, whoa. Yes, I was very emotional, which you always are when you see these species for the first time. And then for your camera not to work, even more heartbreaking.
Absolutely gutting.
Absolutely gutting. But to be on foot within 20 foot of a polar bear, wow. I came back and both my wrists were in braces because my fingers and everything's swollen because of the vibration of the amount of hours that we were driving.
So why do you do it? Why, let's start, I guess, further back in terms of why do you do photography, or how did photography find you?
Okay, this is where it gets hard. Thank you. Cut a long story short, I was in a very toxic relationship. It hurt me mentally and physically. My life wasn't worth living. And it wasn't till a friend literally pulled me aside and said, if there's anywhere in the world you would want to be, where would that be? And I said, Africa. And my nan, bless her, bought me my first proper film SLR camera and packed myself off to Africa, a country I'd only ever seen on TV. Never thought I would get there, and seeing the wildlife for the very first time was life-changing in a sense of being behind that lens, seeing the wildlife. I forgot everything. Everything that had happened disappeared, and hand on heart, it saved my life. And yeah, it gave me something to focus on. So that's when I just literally started doing it more seriously and started attending different workshops, meeting like-minded people, and I literally worked hard and saved hard, bought everything secondhand, and just picked up bits and pieces off other photographers. And yeah, which goes to the point that I try and show my passion for wildlife because it saved my life. I can honestly say, and it's trying to show that gratitude, because there's nothing better feeling than being accepted by them in their environment and having that connection and being accepted.
You made a point then of saying that the feeling or the moment of like the animal accepting you being there, is that something that you feel like you haven't had anywhere?
Yeah. I feel like I am something, I am somebody, which was drilled out of me. I was literally meant to feel worthless. I wasn't good enough. And yeah, I still have parts of that. I have my good days, my bad days. But my photography is the one thing that every image I look at takes me back to that moment I was there, and I get all those feelings back. Literally these past 23 years has been amazing. finding myself. I mean, yes, I still lack confidence and I still doubt myself, but I think that's just the same with everything photographer. We never think we're any good or our images are any good, this, that and the other, but that's just being self-critical, but we all do it. But yeah, it's quite a strong thing, I feel, as to that I'm here today because of that trip, basically. Whoa!
You good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Absolutely fine. I cry in my talks, for God's sake.
I don't want to dig too much, but I do at the same time.
That's what it's all about. It is all about it. And this is what, to me, is when people criticise, they don't know the story behind it.
Yeah. One thing that you mentioned just within that kind of like little mini organisation, that little kind of mini moment. And I think it's really interesting, and this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this feature, because like you said just then that like every photographer feels that we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not all these bits and pieces. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this, because I feel like there's a certain level where people don't talk about those things anymore. No. And they don't want to, because it might hurt their reputation, because it might detract from their skill level, because that's ridiculous and no one, seriously, it's not like that at all. But there is that certain like point where you probably would have been fine openly talking about it, but then there's like, you can't talk about that anymore, because then it becomes like this taboo thing. Yeah. And we all have to look like we've got our shit together. But people say to me, you always look, Jess, why is it that Jess has always got her shit together, knows what she's doing, and holds it in? And it's like, what?
Nobody knows the story.
You didn't see me 3 nights ago on Friday when I was just lost the plot and had a breakdown. Like, you didn't see that. So it's not always sunshine and roses. It's not always perfect. But in terms of you and where you're at, you said you lack confidence.
Yes.
How does that impact you when you're going into things like awards, or people are critiquing your work, or what? How does that manifest?
I'm still shocked. If I go to these awards and I'm announced as the winner, I'm like, have you made a mistake? That's how I feel, because I still don't feel I'm good enough.
Did someone tell you that you're not good enough?
I've been asked many times to change my style. Because apparently you are supposed to be within this category where people know it's your image. But I don't feel I have a style other than having the personality, which when people look at my talks and the images, they state my style is having that connection, which is great. If I get that across, that's what I want to get across. But every image is different in some way or form. And I was told that I had to change. I had to change the way I edited my images. And that's not me. I won't do it just for the sake of a various society or mentor or something like that. It's not me. It's people that have commented about my style of photography, or the fact that, photography ain't cheap. And a lot of the locations I go to, it's not cheap to get to. But it's what I want to do personally. And then I've been accused that I pay the money. I'm guaranteed those images. And basically, in essence, that the wildlife is... I arrange the wildlife to how I want them to be. And it couldn't be so far from the truth. I've travelled as far as like Canada and come back with nothing. It's the risk you take. Yes, it's expensive, I do pay the money, but that's to give you the best possible opportunities, because it's getting you to the location, not guaranteeing the wildlife.
I think it's very easy for anybody to make a judgment about, well, anything really. I mean, it happens everywhere, doesn't it? It's the saying, don't judge a book by its cover, don't judge things on face value. You've got all of these different things happening. And I think that certain people have, like, their work is what people make a judgment on. So they make a judgment on the picture, for example. Other people, they might construct this brand of themselves that they put out into the world, And that might be so far from the actual real truth about that person and the background of it. So there's that side to it. But what would you say to photographers who maybe feel like they are either lost or that they don't really have a place? Like, what would you say to those people who are feeling probably very alone?
Don't think you have to be the same as anybody else. Do what you love. Do what, I've always stated, if people don't like your images, as long as you love them. I mean, I know a lot of people say you shouldn't be connected to your images, but I feel you've got to have that connection because that makes the image at the end of the day, because it's showing your feelings through an image. But yeah, don't be caught up in the whole, like the Facebook and Instagram and everybody showing things as perfect and doing well, and just concentrate on yourself and do things that make you happy. For me, it's helped knowing like-minded people. I've met so many people that have felt the same, and just being together and helping each other in that way as well.
I wonder if you have the same feeling that I have, because some of my favourite images, so the images that I've taken that for me are either exactly what I had in my head or aren't. They maybe not, but they maybe just had something a little bit special, or the moment was special, or the subject matter in the image is extremely special to me. And maybe it's been, I don't know, judged or critiqued, you've entered it into competition, or even just put it on Instagram. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's not done well, or it received like negative comments or whatever, but to you it's still your favourite image.
Yeah.
Do you have that as well, where the images that maybe do really well are like, oh yeah, it's all right, but actually I love this one so much more?
Yeah.
Is that...
Yeah, I've had quite a lot of my images that have done extremely well in competitions have been images more often than not that I've thought, I'll just put it in. I like it, but I'm just going to put it in because I need another image to fill in the numbers that I need to enter. And that's one. And I'm like, I don't see it. I like it, but this is my favourite. What I have to remember is that the judges don't realise the extent of what goes in to getting the images. They don't care about that. Like, they don't care if you're freezing at -50 and you've been sat there for 36 hours to get that one shot. But yeah, it's really hard to know what works, and it is hard if one of your images you love and it gets not the score you was hoping for, and then to be told, well, you've got too much connection to that image.
Can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. Oh, I already have, like lots of them. But do you compose in camera?
I do everything as much in camera as I can do.
That was the right answer.
Yes.
Good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. If the subject is a bit further afield, then yeah, I'll try and do my best, and then it might just be cropped into the proper composition. But I check for everything. So I'm really looking at the background. Is there any distractions? Because if there's a tree sticking out the head or whatever, I can't do anything with that.
No.
That's a delete.
What about somebody's going to be like, what about the equipment? I don't know why I did that voice there, but I did go for the stereotype of who.
Well, there's nothing worse that everybody, like even on the talks I've learned, everybody wants to know what equipment you've got, what settings do you want, because they want to get that image.
And that's
you're not guaranteed to get that same image just because of the equipment.
No.
It's the photographer. It helps.
But what camera?
Okay.
Favourite camera, favourite lens. Let's do that.
Favourite camera, favourite lens. Yeah. The one at the moment, because everybody has gone mirrorless, and due COVID, I've saved some money. I've recently got myself, I'm now on 1DX Mark II bodies. So I'm Canon girl.
I'll allow it.
Thank you. I did win 2 Sony cameras, and that I won 2 Sony cameras. So that was my chance at going mirrorless, but unfortunately, my 1-year-old cat got run over and hit by a car, and needed specialist surgery, which was £5,000, and the only thing I had readily available to sell were the 2 Sony cameras. So I had them in my hand for a brief, and it went. unfortunately.
What about the cat?
The cat's fine.
Oh, good.
Yes, she's a bionic cat, so it was well worth the money. But yeah, my go-to lens is more often than not the 300 2.8 f lens prime. So that at the moment is my go-to.
Oh, I feel like we just had a little bit of an emotional roller coaster that we went down.
That's my life. Any chat with me is an emotional roller coaster.
So what I need to ask you about though is because you said you've dropped hints. You've been like hint dropping all the way through about you know, did have to go back to work.
Yes.
You did go to and work full time. You couldn't stay in Svalbard to do the polar bears for the second week because you were going for work, but you recently now professional. Now you've got the 2 Canon 1DXs and so on and so forth. So what are you doing now?
I've recently left my job of 27 years, and it's always been a dream to be this full-time, do what I love so much full-time. I'm trying to give back, trying to take people to the places I love so much and trying to share that passion I have at these locations with other like-minded people. I know how I started, how I tried to fund for travel, so just trying to keep that in mind. So yeah, I'm 2 months in, spent most of that travelling. So I'm now feet on the ground trying to put things together and try and do things within the UK, around the world, and just, yeah, try and give it a go. I don't want to live with regrets. This is an opportunity that's landed, and yeah, give it a go. See what happens.
Where can people find you?
Yes, I now have a proper website.
Woohoo!
Hey! So yeah, website, Tracey Lund Photography, pretty standard. Everything is on there.
Is it .co.uk?
.co.uk, so yeah, .co.uk. I am on Instagram. All the links are on my website. And yeah, it's...
And your information about the trips?
I have my tab of tours and workshops now have things on it. Yay! It has it's had a TBA on it for about 2 years. It now has things on it. I was shocked because I say the first 2 trips that went up sold out within a couple of hours.
Wow, that's really good.
I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, there's so many people saying, well, can you take me here? Can you take me there? So working on those requests, trying to put something together, and hopefully it'll work, but at least I can say I tried. Yeah, I've still got my exhibition in Joe Cornish's gallery, so if you wanted to see any work there, it's a beautiful gallery, nice cafe.
Where's that?
North Allerton.
Oh, okay.
Up in Yorkshire. It's got a lovely cafe. You've got lots of other photographers there as well as Joe Cornish's work. And yeah, I do Zoom talks to anybody who has any clubs or anything like that. That's another way I'm being seen, where you see my stories and my images.
Is there anything else that you feel we need to cover for the sake of basically helping people?
And just being honest and being open is great. And you'll find people that make you feel so much better and never give in. You're always good, you know, never feel inadequate. I know that's hard. I still feel I don't fit into places or my opinion doesn't count, but I know what I do, and I won't let anybody beat me down anymore. But yeah, just talk, be open and talk to people. People will listen and you won't be ridiculed for it. There are safe spaces out there. It's finding them, and here is a good one, which is why you're doing it.
Yeah, I try and create a safe space. Yeah. If someone does not pass the vibe check, they are ejected. I think if we start digging back in, we'll be crying all afternoon. There's so much more that I'd love to talk to you about, Tracey, but I think we'll cap it off there because I feel like we've covered a full range of different things, from the amazing images right the way through to your history, backstory, right the way through to what you've got available and what you're doing now. And I think that I think this will help people. That's just my hope, is that it will. I think it will.
I think there's been so many photographers I've come across that have been the same. They've all been through something, and photography has helped them get through that bad place. And, you know, there's so many people who've come up to me after talks thanking me for being honest, because they can relate to it.
Yeah.
And it helps them not feel alone, which if I can do that little bit, great.
So that's it for the Naked Talk for this time.
Thank you for having me.
Looking forward to seeing our next guest on here, and I'll see you guys really soon.